Alright, so this is the quiz review for our first quiz over lessons 1 and 2. Number 1 was 3 plus 18 divided by 3. We need to look at PEMDAS, which I like to write it out like this. Okay? So, we have addition and we have division. Division comes first, so we're going to box that up. And we're going to do the operation inside the box. So we're going to bring down 3 plus 18 divided by 3 is 6. I only have one operation left. It's 3 plus 6, and that equals 9. Okay, so now we have this problem. 8 minus 14 divided by 9 minus 2. You have 9 minus 2 in parentheses. That has to be done first. So you have 8 minus 14 divided by 9 minus 2 is 7. Then we have subtraction and we have division. Division always comes first when it's just subtraction and division. So we have 8 minus 14 divided by 7 is 2, and 8 minus 2 is 6. Number 3 says 4 minus 24 divided by 2 cubed. 2 cubed means 2 times 2 times 2. Okay? 2 times 2 times 2 equals 8. This is 4, and 4 times 2 is 8. So we have 4 minus 24 divided by 8. Now again, we're at subtraction and we're at division. We always divide first when we have those two because in PEMDAS, division becomes before subtraction. 4 minus 24 divided by 8 is 3, and that equals 1. That is our answer. Okay, number 4. We have parentheses. We have to follow PEMDAS in the parentheses. So, multiplication is going to come before subtraction. So we have 30 minus 2 times 5, which is 10, in parentheses divided by 5. Now we still have parentheses with an operation, so we have to do that first. 30 minus 10 is 20, and now we're at 20 divided by 5, which equals 4. For these two, you should have been able just to look at your notes. Whether you took them on the video or you took them on the board. And if you don't have these in your notes, you didn't take notes. So you need to work on taking notes. But there's associative property, and the associative property says we can regroup when we're adding or multiplying in any way. And they will be equal to each other. Okay? 3 numbers with parentheses. I went over that and over that. Commutative is 2 numbers, 3 numbers is parentheses, and you should have been able to look in your notes, seen the parentheses, write down associative. Y times 1 equals 1. That's the identity. The identity doesn't change anything. If y is your identity and you multiply it by 1, you're left with y. It doesn't change the value. Okay? So you should have been able to look on your notes too and seen an example. I think it was like a times 5 or something like that. Okay, if you took notes on the board. But if you took notes out of the book, you would have had a similar, or off the movie, you would have had a similar example. So if you don't have those in your notes, you're not taking notes in the correct way, and you need to start writing down everything I put on the board or everything that I put in the video. It's not a pick and choose game. 7 says 5 times 18 times 20. Most of you got an answer to this, but you didn't justify it, and I told you repeatedly. Justification. The first step is the property you used. The second justification is the operation you used. Okay? You need to look at these. Is 5 times 18 easier or 5 times 20? It's always easier to multiply by a number that has a ones place of 0. So that's how you know you're grouping it correctly. Here, we regrouped, we use parentheses, it's 3 numbers. That is the associative property. Now we take 5 times 20, we get 100 times 18, and that equals 1800, and we justify these steps with multiplication. Okay, the next one, number 8, said 3 times 11 times 20. Again, it's easier to multiply a number by a number with the zeros in the one spot than anything else. So we're going to take 3 times 20 times 11. I regrouped 3 numbers with parentheses. That is the associative property. Now I take 3 times 20, which is 60, times 11, and I get 660. And I justify these two steps by saying we were multiplying. Okay? A lot of you just came up with the answer of 1800 and 660. And I did give you some credit if you did that, but we needed to justify. The last problem we did on here was 14 times 11. And you were to use the distributive property. And I told you before you took the test when I was going over directions, do not multiply the two numbers, just using long multiplication. However, that's what a lot of you chose to do. You pick what tens places these are between. It's between the 10s and the 20s. Okay, to get to 11, you can add 1 to 10, or you can subtract 9 from 20. These become your parentheses now and take the place of that 11. So now you have 14 times 10 plus 1, or 14 times 20 minus 9. You can pick which one you're going to do. You take 14 times 10, bring the plus sign down, and then 14 times 1. 14 times 10 is 140, plus 14 times 1 is 14. You add those and you get 154. Okay? This one, you would take 14 times 20. You would bring down a minus sign and then do 14 times 9. 14 times 20 is 280 minus 14 times 9 is 126. You subtract the two and you get 154. You did not have to do both of them. If you did, awesome. You had to choose one, okay? This one here, probably going to be easier because most of us work better with addition than subtraction. I cannot believe the number of people who did this. Like, honestly, I was a little surprised because it felt like we must have really not been listening. I got so many of these. And I told you in the beginning, don't just multiply. So, a few things. We need to work on listening, some of us. And some of us need to work on taking better notes. Some of us need to ask more questions. Some of us need to pay attention to the movie or what's going on in class. Okay? We can all work on something. But you need to pick something to work on and work on that for the next week or two. Make that your goal to get better at doing. Alright? We should always have goals so we can get better at what we're doing. So there's your video. And you can retake your test Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday at lunchtime.